I'd like to welcome everybody for coming to this lecture. I'm Harvey Pesson. For lack of a better title, I'm the site manager for the Victory Garden here in Newtown. And for those of you who are unfamiliar with the Victory Garden, it is a community garden on 10,000 square feet of land in Fairfield Hills. We have about 150 volunteers who work there and grow vegetables for the food pantries here in Newtown. The Faith Food Pantry, Social Services, and Nananook Meadows. Last year we grew 2,800 pounds in our first year for the food pantries. And this year we didn't weigh it, but everybody says that we are having a bigger crop for the needy. We are sponsoring this lecture for Nick Mancini, organic gardener, and I have to say from personal experience, Britt and I went down last February in the dead of winter to visit his gardens, and we were so impressed. It was unbelievable what he was growing. Britt and I, we do grow, but we never grew vegetables before. We grow perennials and shrubs. But after visiting Nick's garden last year, we came home and built a cold frame and started growing vegetables ourselves, and it is really a truly wonderful experience. And today I'm hoping Nick can share some of his expertise with us so that we can grow vegetables year-round. And no further ado, Nick Mancini.
Thank you very much, Harvey. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. From now on, you are going to be a year-round gardener, because otherwise, if you only garden 6 months out of the year, you're losing 6 months, half of your year. So this way, you will encompass the whole 4 seasons. You feel better. You could grow organic produce. I personally do organic vegan. I do not use animal manure. I don't use any other type of like blood meal or bone meal or the likes. It's a preference. It doesn't mean that if a person does it chemically, it's not right. It could be right for you. So what you do is you choose what you want, and then you do whatever you please. How many of you are into organic gardening? How many of you halfway into organic gardening? Okay. Well, today I'm going to show you some of my tricks or what I do, and you can use it or not. So what we're going to learn, not only how to build frames, but what you need in your soil to make, let's say if you have a tomato plant that yields 6 pounds a year, well, you're wasting your time. If your tomato plants are not yielding at least 30 to 50 pounds of tomatoes each plant, somebody is taking some of the share that should be in your fridge. This is how it works. If you have a good soil, then you will have a good crop. If you have lousy soil, you have lousy crops. In fact, what they tell you to do is feed your soil. Do not feed the crops. Because what makes the soil so important is if the soil doesn't have all the nutrients that the crop needs, not only the nutrients, but also has to have the right pH so the root can absorb what's in the soil. And we'll go through this a little at a time. This is basically what it's telling you is that you need everything together to make a perfect garden. You have to know a plant and what the plant needs. because a tomato plant needs one thing and a squash plant needs another. Well, you have brothers and sisters and you have friends that they're all different than you. So, and plants are like humans. We're from different backgrounds, different families, and we all need different things to eat and practice to survive. So what you have to do is, first, when you put a plant into a garden, you have to know which family this plant belongs to. Because if you put the same plant in the same location the following year, your plant will not do very well. Because all the nutrients are taken out of that section. All the nutrients of this plant. Say now that this year you grow broccoli, what family does the broccoli belong to? Right. And what other plants belong to the same family?
Cauliflower.
What else?
Yeah, cabbage. Brussels sprouts.
Spinach.
No. Well, that's okay. That's all right. That's all right. Hey, listen.
Partial credit.
Well, how about kohlrabi? Kohlrabi is very good. Now, say now that you plant this type of family here, and next year you want to put, let's say, the solanaceous family or nightshade. What is the nightshade family consist of?
Peppers.
Eggplant.
Eggplant.
Peppers, tomatoes.
And what else? One more. Potatoes.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Okay? Then, if you look, let's say, the cucurbit family, you got what?
Cucumber, squash.
Squash. Okay. So what you have to do is 1 year you plant here, next year, next year. So rotate 3 years. If you have a small garden, try to make a plan before you start, because sometimes you have to make plans, because if you don't make sketches and plans, you forget where you plant things. So that's one of the things that the prerequisite to be a real good gardener. This here you have, and it's out there if you need it, to show you when to plant your seedlings. How many of you buy seedlings? How many of you grow your own? Beautiful, very good. And that will show you how many of you buy the soilless mixture instead of making your own. Okay, you can make your own. It's much, much easier. And then you can put in whatever you want. Because remember, today, organic is the name of the game. However, organic might not be what you get. I mean, how do you know? How do you know that you get an organic? When I go to a store and I see a pretty apple and it says organic, do you think I believe it? No. You can't. So you see, because organic means natural. When this summer I was in Italy, and I have a cousin that had lots and lots of fruit trees, and most of them had worms. Well, the guy is a doctor, and he said, well, it's protein. He said, if you get one in your teeth, well, that's what we have to come to the realization that sometimes spraying pesticides and toxic material on an apple is not very good for us, even though it looks nice. So this is sort of to tell you when to start planting, and from year 1 to year 2. You start over here, then you come around, and every year do the same thing. Once you plant your own stuff and transplant it in the fall, over here it will tell you sow in the ground, fall crop. Once you know that, then you could work well have plenty of produce for you and your family. My wife and I never buy lettuce all year long. Never. We don't want to do that. Because remember, lettuce has lots and lots of lead. Even when you buy lettuce from a reputable place, try to use some vinegar in the water to get some of the lead out, because lettuce absorbs a lot of lead. And lots of soils have a lot of lead in it. So, how many of you start out very early in the year? Very good. In the middle of February, whether you have a raised bed or a conventional garden, put a nice heavy gauged plastic, clear plastic, for a couple weeks. The first of the month, till it under. And when you till it under, make sure that you have sown winter rye. How many of you use winter rye for a cover crop? Very good. You have to use winter rye for a cover crop because that will give you all the good nutrients that your plants need. Then, don't water it. And then you get yourself a soil test. While you wait for the soil to get nice and warm, see if you could get yourself into the garden and get a soil test, because that's very, very important. One of my students this morning that is going to start out, she's going to start in this spot, and she has, everything is fine except the pH of the soil is a little low. So what she has to do, she has to amend it. And I will show you how to amend it very easily, because remember, if the pH in the soil is not the right pH for the plant will not be able to extract any nutrients from it. So that's very, very important. What it tells you...
Question, sir?
Yes, sure.
You mentioned the black plastic, and then you said winter rye. Black plastic, I assume, is just sort of kill things off? Or
just put it on top.
Yeah.
Yes, put it on top, and even if it grows a little bit, it doesn't make any difference. Then you till it under.
So you just till the soil, you're saying, but till what under?
Okay, first you put the plastic,
Mm-hmm.
then 2 weeks later or a week and a half later, it should be nice and warm,
Right.
so you till it under.
Yeah, okay.
And make sure that the winter rye doesn't stick up. Everything has to go down, otherwise it'll re-sprout on you.
In other words, winter rye was seeded in the fall time or something?
In the fall, yes.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay.
Yeah, the order was a little confusing.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, okay. Well, because I'm going to tell you later what to use.
Gotcha.
So this is, I'm going from here to there. I'm just going around and around.
Okay.
Okay. And what this soil test will show you, the pH of this test over here is 6.7, which is good. It's because for vegetables it should be from 6 to 7. So I have 6.7. Calcium is optimum, magnesium optimum, phosphorus optimum, and potassium is optimum. So I'm fine there. And all these here these are the nutrients that you need a lot, the macronutrients. And these over here are the micronutrients that you need very little. So what this soil needs, it only needs a little bit of nitrogen in the spring, and it's all set. Remember, your soil has to be done in the fall, in the previous fall, to be in great shape for the spring.
But in there, it doesn't mention nitrogen. Where was that?
On the bottom.
Oh, down below there, gotcha.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And all gardens need nitrogen in the spring, because nitrogen is not like phosphorus and potassium. They stay in the soil longer. Nitrogen is either used or just goes through. Lead. Be sure that your garden has very little lead. Under 130 is great. 400, I think. The government said 400. The state says 300. Some states, like Minnesota, they only want 100. So if your soil is above 200, I would question it. And what you do is you amend it a little bit with good compost. A compost that has 50% nitrogen and 50% carbon. Do you understand about composting? Remember, compost is not what you go in the woods and get. That's not compost. If you have a wooded area and you go and get all this leaf mold, it's beautiful. Except the leaf mold is only carbon. What you have to do is you have to amend with a little nitrogen. I like to use soybean meal. If I get one of these 5-gallon tubs full of this good stuff, this black gold, I think that's what they used to call it years and years ago. Well, it's black gold, but it has to be refined. So if you put 1 cup of soybean meal to this 5-gallon of leaf mold, you have a perfect compost. How many of you have a composter? How many of you have 3-binner? Beautiful. How many of you do worm composting in wormeries? How many of you do bokashi? That's the Chinese, the Japanese composting. That's something different. But all these are done to enhance the soil, and that's my passion, to make a great soil. Just make sure that if you have to buy soil, make sure that this soil is bought from a reputable person. Otherwise, it will not be very good for you. One of my students in Fairfield last year was telling me, showed me that his lead content was 416, 417. I said, if I were you, I would call the people and tell them to come and pick it up. Because, and he said, yeah, he said, I thought so because it smelled a little bit. So that's why you have to watch. And he said, and that person charged me a lot of money for it. And I said, well, see, that's what happened because everybody is into organic. See, everybody is into organic. Everybody in good faith. I mean, if I need some organic something or another, and I need it from you, in good faith, I think that you're going to give me what I want. But yeah, there's a lot of devious people out there, and you have to watch what you're buying. Just make sure that these people here are reputable and they come with a good recommendation. Otherwise, I wouldn't even try to touch them. The pH factor. This is very, very important. It has to be from 6 to 7, and it could be amended. It could be fixed very, very, very easily. There are 2 ways. Say now that you have a soil that's 5.0, and you have to bring it to 6 or to 7. What do you use? What do you use?
Limestone.
What kind of limestone?
Granulated.
What's that?
Granulated.
Yes, but what kind?
Calcitic.
Calcitic or dolomitic? Which one? Okay, good answer, but also depends on what you're growing.
That's right.
If you growing something needs lots of calcium, how many of you have problem with tomatoes that gets the blossom end rot? Especially tomatoes that are the Sarmarzano or plum type of tomatoes.
What did you say, blossom what?
The blossom end rot,
Oh, end rot.
end rot. What it just rots at the bottom. Any of you had that problem?
A couple of years ago.
Uh-huh. So what did you do for it?
Well, we cleaned the garden, everything that we took out went into plastic bags and went to the garbage dump. Didn't turn them in, didn't put them into, and we did that every year for about 2 years, and we haven't had it since.
Well, an easier way to do it is to prevent that from happening. What you do is you put calcitic lime that has 40% calcium. That's it. It's that simple. See, that's what I'm here to tell you, to teach you. Gardening is simple. Gardening is very simple. The only thing you have to know, a few little things, few little ins and outs, that's it. Remember, the most important thing, like I said before, and I'm going to stress it again, the root system of a plant. It depends on the plant. Because if you put a blueberry next to a tomato plant, one or the other is going to die. Because one needs one type of pH level and the other one needs another. Yet, if you have a potato next to a blueberry, it does quite well. Because potatoes could be 4.5 to 7. So you see, tomatoes and potatoes, the same family, but both need a different type of nutrition. So that's what I try to tell people. Use the lime that is for that type. If you need magnesium, then you put dolomitic lime.
Question.
Yeah, Shirley.
Could you divide the garden in different sections for certain plants, or you cannot do that?
Actually, you could spot fertilize. Because I know where my tomatoes go next year.
Okay.
In this fall, I will amend the soil for the tomato. And so that way in the spring, the only thing I have to put a little nitrogen. And remember, tomatoes do not like nitrogen. Tomatoes do not like too much nitrogen, because if you have too much nitrogen, they will not only drop the flower, but it will also grows very, very thick, and it has very little fruit. And that's the problem with tomatoes. Make sure that I have someone was telling me the other night that he had the most beautiful carrots. He says, oh, the tops are like this. And I said, and the bottoms are like this. He said, how did you know? I said, well, it's because he used nitrogen. He said, how did you know that? Well, it's that simple. See, because remember, nitrogen is for the top, phosphorus is for the bottom, and you will see after when we do that. So you see, the dolomitic lime is 11% magnesium, but only 21% calcium. So all depends what you're going to use on the plant that you're using. Remember, tomatoes need calcium, and also one more plant. They also gets the blossom end rot, and also gets a very, very bad affliction from one insect. Can you tell me which?
The squash.
Squash. Squash. Who said squash? Very good. Because squash, many, many times the squash gets a blossom end rot, and they get the squash vine borer. How many of you get the squash vine borer, which means that your plant all of a sudden dies? Yes. What you have to do is, you either have to put tulle, T-U-L-L-E, when the plant begins to grow, and just put tulle around the stem, so the vine borer cannot lay the eggs on the stem. Then, if it lays the egg on the leaf, it's okay. It will kill the leaf, but will not kill the stem. Then, if you don't do that, and your stem gets attacked by these grubs, because sometimes there could be 10, 15 in there, 2 or 3 or 1, what you have to do is split it in half, remove it, tie it together, and put some soil on top of it. And that will reroot again. But make sure that the grub or grubs inside are out. Okay? That's it's done all the time. And if you don't want any of this problem, then you wait until the end of July to plant your squash. Because squash goes until frost. I still have 3 plants of squash, and there's still doing okay. The only thing at this time, what they do is, what do squash get on the leaves?
Powdery mildew.
Very good. And what do you do for powdery mildew?
Milk.
Oh, what else?
What was the first answer? Yeah, what was milk?
Milk.
Milk?
Really?
Yes, you spray milk, yes. One more thing, copper.
Oh, yes.
It's the same thing that you do with lilac and phlox and all these other little things. So if you have a phlox that get, and they usually do, or lilac, you know, most of the times do that, what you do is spray some copper or milk on it, and you're okay.
A copper solution, in other words?
Liquid copper, unless you make your own Bordeaux mixture.
What did you call the premix, or what did you call it?
Bordeaux, you know, like the grape
The
in
wine.
France. The wine in France, yes.
Okay.
Okay, that's a little bit more problematic because you have to get the copper sulfate and hydrated lime and mix them together. But if you want to do that, it's easy to do. Or else you could get yourself liquid copper. I think Bonite company makes it. So see what's easier for you. That's what gardening is all about. It's not my way of doing or your way of doing it. It's the way of doing that you like to do, and how successful you want to be. That's the name of the game in any type of gardening. The Lauren pH. There are 2 things you could use. Sulfur is very good, and aluminum sulfate is also very good. The only thing is I don't like aluminum sulfate because it works too fast. And if it works too fast, there's something that they put in. It's like people say, well, I use urea triple 15. I said, well, fine, you use urea triple 15. But in this urea, who knows what they, actually what they do is they treat it with acid and they make it the way it just, if you look at a urea thing, they just pop little balls and I don't trust when they do things like that. I like everything natural. And copper is natural. The only thing is too much copper is toxic. It's like anything else. What you do is you look at your soil test and you see how much buildup of copper you have, and then you go according to it. Is this clear enough? And this is self-explanatory. Macro and micronutrients. The macronutrients are the ones that we need lots of them in large quantity. And micronutrients are the ones that they're called trace elements, and you need very little. So these are the ones, some of the only thing, iron, a person's levels in our soil test was a little high. So watch where you put your garden. But if it's a little high, by putting a little compost and not put any more iron, it's going to be fine. So anything in here will not be any good unless the pH of your soil is to perfection. Any questions on that? Okay. Up, down, and all around. Up, foliage. Down is the root. All around is to have good blooms and good produce. If you have lettuce, you have a leaf. That's what you want. You want to put lots of nitrogen. If you have spinach, what do you want for spinach? nitrogen. That's what it likes, because it's for the leaf. If you have beets or carrots or anything that has a root, then you have to use phosphorus. And remember that phosphorus will not travel very, very much. So if you need phosphorus, the phosphorus has to be where the root is. Phosphorus is not going to do any good if you put it on top and you scratch it with your cultivator. It has to be where the root is, because it only travels 1 inch per year. Unless it's incorporated where the root is, it's not going to do you any good. However, you could get yourself a copper that's water soluble, and I like to use rock phosphate. That's 0,30. So if you need a 10-10-10 and you have 0,30, to put the phosphorus, you use 3 times as much. So you've got 3, 6, 9, and 9 and 10 is close. You understand what I'm saying? Are all of you into or understand how organic fertilizers are made?
No.
Okay. Organic fertilizers do not come in 10-10-10 or 5-10-5, because it doesn't happen. It might come in 7-1 or 0-30 or 0-0-22, 0-15 or 12-0-0. Blood meal is 12-0-0. Corn gluten is 10-0-0. And all these things, bone meal is 3-15-0. So all these things you have to know. Why doesn't this formula come already made? It can't. Because I use soybean meal is my source of nitrogen. Sometimes I use alfalfa meal. I used to use cottonseed meal, but I don't use that anymore because that's heavily sprayed. So I don't use cottonseed. So actually I only have 2, and I have another one that I just got, but that's too expensive, and it's a powder and you have to mix it with water, so I'm staying away from that until people get into it more. The only phosphorus that I use is rock phosphate, 0,30. And the potassium, I use sulfur mag or green sand. Green sand, if any of you are into container gardening, use, instead of another potassium, use this green sand because it retains a lot of moisture. Green sand, all one word. It's a green sand, that's what it is. It looks green, greenish blue, and it's mine in Jersey. So, or sulfur mag, S-U-L-P-O-M-A-G. Sulfur, Paul, what is Paul? Potassium, and mag, magnesium. Okay, that's 0,022. And you can make, out of these 3 things, you can make your own 10-10, 15-15, or 5-10-10, whatever you want, by using the amount, a certain amount. See, because you wouldn't use the same amount as you would, let's say that you have one that's 0,30, you wouldn't use the same amount as one that is 10 at the end or at the beginning. You use 3 times. So use the same measurement to reach a certain point. But that could, we'll do that some other time. Okay, and potassium is good for fruiting and maturation and flowering. Yes, Britt?
Yeah, what do you think of the premixed, the spoma, as an example, has an organic line now? That's the old plant tone, holly.
Well, everybody has, everybody has a line now because it's very, very popular. And everybody buys that. I don't use it. In fact, I sooner or later I have to talk to the person that because I have my own garden, plus I have a plot in a community garden down the pike a little bit. And I've seen that being used, and before the year is over, I have to meet with the president and tell him, if we're going to do organic, I want to do 100% organic. If not, I'm out of there, because I only do organic, and I do more than organic. So, you know, these things, we have to address them.
Are you saying the Espoma products are not organic?
Not for me, no. You see, because they come, see what they do is they come into, first what you have to do is, when you look at a fertilizer, look what percentage of NPK it has. Because one of the ladies in the community garden, one was 232 or something like that. That's not good enough. See, that's not, it's like having unleaded gasoline and trying to raise in Indianapolis 500. You know, you can't. It's the same thing. Well, but it's true. I mean, I'm sorry to say that. See, because remember, a plant that only has 6 months to live, it has to grow fast. Yes?
What's that combination, and what does that mean, NPK?
NPK.
What is that?
Nitrogen?
Oh, N. Okay.
NPK. Nitrogen?
Gotcha. Potassium.
Is that okay?
Phosphorus.
Yes, very good.
One more question. Do you
Surely.
Have do you have a source for these lists of organic? Where do you shop?
I shop with Connecticut Nova, the Northeast Organic Farmers Association. What I do is I go to Bloomfield every spring and get my whatever I need there.
Oh,
But I have to get it in 4, 40, 50 pound bags. It's a trek up there. It's a long way, but if you have a chance to join the Northeast Organic Farmers Association, they're very informative. They really know what they're talking about. In fact, they're going to have their meeting, the semi-annual meeting next year at Wilton High School. They used to be at Manchester Community College, and they got to be too small for them. Now they're coming down here, which is good. I'm glad, because we need more, you know, to them to come here. And this is what I do. What we have here, this is ryegrass. This is rye. This is annual rye or winter wheat. What you do is you spade the first row and put it in your wheelbarrow. That's what you do. And always have your wheelbarrow pointing to the place that you're going to go, because you don't want to back it up. You just want to, okay? Then what you do is you turn it all over. And when you come to the end, or to the end over here, then you put what's in the wheelbarrow at the end. See, because if you start over here, you cannot open a furrow. So what you need is you need an open furrow so you could flip the grass on the bottom. See? Yes, upside down, and you keep on doing a little bit at a time. And after 2 weeks, this here is ready. Now, make sure that you work your soil at medium range. If it's too wet, it's not good. If it's too dry, it's okay. But if it's too wet, it's not good. So what you do is you make a ball, and you just flick it. If it breaks, it's just right. If it sticks to your shovel or the tine of your tiller, it's too wet. Just wait a day or two. See, all these things here, you want to make sure that everything is in sync. See, because nature, that's how nature goes. It just, you have to do one thing and the other and the other.
Could you back up on that? It's just, so we're doing this in March, usually everything's frozen down.
Not if you have. Not if you have that covered. Yes, clear plastic. Okay, clear plastic.
Yeah, you said put, again, so you already have the rye down, you put the plastic.
On top of it, yes. See, because that year, at that time of the year, it doesn't grow that much, even under in a sunny day, because it's not hot and the sun is not over it. It's so far away from it that.
So when are you doing the winter rye?
What's that?
When are you putting that winter rye?
Around November. Yes. Seedlings, for you, remember, it's very difficult to buy organic heirloom seedlings. Because first of all, you don't know what's in the soilless mixture. You don't know what they put in. So if you really want to do organic or natural, same thing, then you make your own mixture. Only use, I do not use plastic that you buy, the pots that you buy. I only use either wood to have my little seedlings, wood, newspaper, or food grade containers. Yogurt cups are fantastic. The only thing you have to do is just put 3 little slits underneath, make 3 holes, and that's it. Number 5, food grade, and that's how I do it. It's very simple. What you do if you have seedlings, remember, as soon as they sprout, get them out of the heat and put them in light for at least 12 to 16 hours. How many times did you grew seedlings and they got very spindly? Yeah, that's because of the light and because of the heat. I have, in the spring, everybody emails me and says, hey Nick, this. I said, okay, you must haven't, oh yeah, it's on top of this. That's the reason why. It's too hot and it's too, and it does not have light. So put it in the light for 16 hours a day and you get good stuff. If you want to use fish, I don't use that type of fertilizer anymore because it's not what I want. I use a different type of fertilizer that comes from plants. So, but it's okay if you want to use it. It's 231. I think it's called something Harvest something. A company that calls Harvest. Yes, Neptune Harvest or something like that. Yes, and I used to use that and I had good luck with it, but now I changed and I have something better that I like to use. Now, how many of you use soil blocks? Soil blocks is soil compressed. What you do is, you just, there's a form, either with 4 or 8. What you do is you put your mixture here, then you make your blocks, and then you put the seed right on the block. You put the seed on the block, and it comes just like that. See, these are all little blocks. And they're very, very easy to pull up, and it's air pruned, so the root is not showing too much, only on the bottom a little bit, shows on the bottom. And you could just plop them in the soil, and that's it. They have a nice root already. It's never touched any oil base or product which is toxic, and it's very, very simple to do.
Pardon, so that's, you're saying just compact the soil and then
Yes.
you cut it one way or another?
No. You put the soil here, wet soil, and then there is a gizmo.
Oh, okay.
Yes, and you do this, and it compresses, and then you do this, boom, and it comes up.
Gotcha.
And has a little hole on top. Put the seed in here, boom, that's it. And I think Johnny's seed, it's called soil blocks maker. This is what I like to use. I like to use wood. And it comes a time that you have to transplant. And make sure, when you transplant anything, just do not grab it by the stem. Always grab it by the ears, just like a rabbit. If you have a rabbit and you don't want to hurt the rabbit, you grab it by the ears, because the ears are very strong and they don't have any nerves, I guess, because I used to have a lot of rabbits as a kid, and they never complained to me when I grabbed by the ears. So I assume that it doesn't bother them, but maybe it does. What you do is get yourself a little ice cream stick or a small knife and just pry it, and that's how it should be held. So just like this. And have a little hole in the soil already before you pick this up. So what you do is you slide it down, and don't push it down. Just hold it out. And with your knife or whatever you have, just put it, stick this in the hole, and just put the soil to here. That's it. Just press it down a little bit and water it. See, because what you want is you want the plant to be whole, and even if this little leaf breaks, it doesn't make any difference, because they'll regrow. But if you crush the stem, it's dead. So this is fine-tuning your garden skills. Yes?
But if you have this, and already have it in a block, then you just set the whole block in and you
Yes,
touch
yes,
the roots.
yes. Mm-hmm. But if you have, see now this is not a soil block, this is just a, yeah, it's sprout your peas, and always soak your seeds overnight, except peas. When you sow anything, either in the garden or in pots or wherever you use, always soak seeds overnight. And if you have compost or worm compost, make a tea out of it and use, after 24 hours or 12 hours, put it in this tea, just a little compost left with water for 24 hours or 48 hours or 3 days, and use some of this water to put your seeds in, and that fortifies the seeds. Where's the other thing? There we go. This is your first crop. This is what your first crop should look like. Remember, you have lettuce and spinach. You want lettuce and spinach where you're going to sow your summer crop. Where your tomatoes go, it should be full of this stuff. Because tomatoes should be your second crop. And after tomatoes, then you have another crop after tomatoes. See what I mean? And then, if you want to build a cold frame, then you can have your fourth crop. And that's the trick of, see, because I have a very small garden, very small. I have about 350 square feet, but I have 10 times what I need. Why? Because I have good soil. I mean, that's the name of the game. And yes, Britt.
Hey, could you explain with your cold frame?
Oh, I will.
Okay.
Oh, sure.
How you grow for the winter?
Oh, sure. This one here is my little cold frame. This is a cold frame that is used for seedlings. Okay? I use this here for seedlings in the spring. When I take them out of my inside bench that I made, I put them in here to harden them off. At first I have the top on, and eventually I take it off during the night for 4, 5, 6, 7 nights. And after that, they're all set to go into the garden. Never have your little seedlings go directly into the garden from under the lights, because you're going to lose them. And especially at that time of the year. So now, what I have, this is a casement window, and I show you how to do it. Or you can have something like this. It's very simple. The only thing you need is a couple 2x4s and 1/2 inch PVC and plastic. It's that simple.
How thick the plastic?
It's the heavy gauge plastic. Remember, the heavier gauge the plastic is, the more it protects. Okay? That's very, very simple. These are, what are these?
Broccoli?
Very good. Broccoli. When you put in broccoli, make sure that you put a collar around it, especially if your garden is next to your lawn, because you're going to have a lot of cutworms.
Yeah.
Okay? Cutworms. And what you do is, when you have your water bottles, the gallon water bottles, don't throw them away. Just cut the bottom off and put them on top at night. It's that simple. Or anything that you have. See, now these here, they serve two purposes. One, they keep the slugs away if you have slugs, or any other animal that you have. And then what you do is, and it keeps the inside nice and fresh and white. So the only thing you have to do is just slide it up and boom. And these are all 1 gallon clear plastic. Of course, you know this you do at night, and make sure that you do not just put your little seedlings and leave them alone. The first night, even if it's warm, put something over, because they have to respire. See, because they need lots and lots of moisture once. And always transplant at night, never transplant in the morning or in the sun. And if you transplant during the summer, if you transplant anything during the summer, put a shade cloth over it. This is how I grow my stuff. These are tomato plants. I immunize them with copper when they're young, and I don't get the late blight. So, and the same thing with these squash plants. So this way what I do is I just put it right in. The roots are not disturbed whatsoever. The only thing I have to do is just take a little bit, oops, around the rim. Because remember, if the rim shows, it's going to suck all the moisture. Very good. All the moisture.
Is that newspaper?
Yes. It's very simple. Newspaper with good glue, and that's all you need. And they will stand whatever, I mean, you can't kick it, but it does quite well. When you sell tomatoes, the night before, how many of you graft your own tomatoes? Do you graft tomatoes? That's your next attempt. Remember, grafted tomatoes yield twice as much. Instead of 30 pounds, you get 70 pounds. But that's the way it is. You graft the tomato into a rootstock, like a wild rootstock that's very strong, and it yields bigger tomatoes, stronger plants, and better tasting tomatoes, because the root will extract a lot of good nutrients from the soil.
And where does that rootstock come from?
The rootstock there are 3 or 4 types of tomatoes. They're very expensive, the seeds. If you want some seeds, go to Johnny Seeds, and they call it Mexiford. The Mexiford's, for 50 seeds, it will cost you $22. They're expensive. But that's the way it is. And then you graft your heirloom tomatoes into this rootstock. It's the same thing that's done with vineyards in Europe, with the American, yes, you know, with the American root, and yeah, it's the same thing. So what I do is I grow mine quite tall, and then I take all the leaves off the night before, and then instead of planting it vertically, I'll plant it horizontally. First I put a banana peel and some squash and some scrunched seaweed. Then I put ½ inch of soil, and then I lay my little plant. No, that's not. I guess I don't put it in. Then you just lay it in there, and you cover it with soil. That's all you do. And within 3 weeks, this plant will bolt on you. You know why? Because remember tomatoes, they shoot. I mean, they're very prolific. So all this, within 2 weeks, you're going to have a hell of a great root system.
So it's completely covered?
Yes, to here, just to here.
Okay.
And you're planting your rootstock tomato right now.
What's that?
Is this the rootstock tomato you're planting?
No, no. This is what I do. This is grafted for me. You would let yours grow until you learn.
Already grafted.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. But this is grafted on top.
Yeah.
See, because if it's grafted here, then the root of the heirloom is going to take part of it. So what you do is, there are 2 ways of grafting. One is the log graft. I do the high graft. And most people, they do graft when they're about that small. Because the grafting clips are very little and some are large. I use the large ones because I do on top. Okay? So if you were to do the conventional grafting, you will graft it right over here.
Yeah.
All right? Yes?
But just grafting to me means you make a cut, or I mean, can you explain a little bit?
Well, what you do is you just slice it like this, and you put the 2 of them together.
Okay.
You clip them, and you put them in the dark for 2 days, but under a dome. And you keep moisture, and you introduce a little light, and then eventually it will take. And once it's taken, then you can take it out.
Doesn't the clip damage the stem?
No, no. What the clip does is, it's soft plastic.
Okay, it's really just a Band-Aid or something.
Well, it's a clip that it clips on, and as the plant expands, it just flicks it off.
Right.
Once it's healed, boom, it drops. And the same thing with this type of plant. Grow up. If you don't have room, you don't need a squash to go on the ground. Bring it up, because you can have squash that tall. It produces well, and the squash is clean. What you do is you have 2 of these bamboos, one on one side and one on the other, and you keep on tying it. You tie it here, it's a grouse. See? Over here, and just let it go. Yes?
Before leaving tomatoes, you had said you inoculate the
Yes.
tomato plants with copper?
With copper, yes.
How do you do that?
Just spray them.
Oh, so they're just young plants and you spray them with the copper?
Yes,
and
and when you have the small plants, just use copper half the strength. Say now that they want 2 tablespoons per gallon. What you do is you use 1 tablespoon at the beginning, and then as the plant gets bigger and gets used to it, then you can increase it until the 2.
And that prevents the late blight?
The late blight, fusarium wilt, and verticillium wilt. Do we have any questions? Okay. Now, this is my cold frame. I can't let all that space to waste. No way. So what do I do? I put a couple of planks and I use them for container gardening. Why not? There's no reason, to have that. And I could grow. I mean, look, I grow all kinds of things. I grow tomatoes. I grow cucumbers. I grow squash, melons, whatever you want. So that's what you do.
Is that basil right there in that spot?
This is basil. Yes, this is a French melon. This is a cantaloupe, I think. I mean, all these things, and see, and it goes all over the place. And if you want to mask it off, put some borage around it or some flour or something like that you can eat. See, we had a discussion this morning about companion planting. How many of you do companion planting? And I said, it's all well and good. The only problem is I don't want to waste that space for marigold, whereas I could put a lettuce or something like that. And also, remember, when you do companion planting, I like to plant, I like to stagger my whatever I grow in 3 years. So that way, all the germs that can affect the same plant or the same family are not there. And that's what I was telling the members of my community garden. We cannot grow beans there because the Mexican bean beetle strips everything. So I said, look, why don't we do this? Why don't we not grow beans for a full year? So these animals will not be here next time. So, oh, but we want to. So, but you see, that's what happens. In my house, I don't have any Mexican bean beetles, or I don't have any cucumber beetles at all. Why? Because I keep it nice and clean, and I look at it. I take good care of it. If I see one, because you can see, it's difficult to spot, but once they injure one leaf, then you zap them. Get them, boom, and they're gone. And if you get one or two at the beginning, then you don't have any problems because they don't lay eggs. And that's the nice part about it. How many of you do container gardening with vegetables? Do you put anything in front on the south side?
In front of the container?
Yes.
Well,
You don't do that. Try to put foil, 1/2 inch styrofoam, foil faced in front, and you will see how much water retention you get and how much better your plant is going to be. Because otherwise it gets too hot. Remember, if you use terracotta or if you use plastic, anything you use is going to get super hot. Because when it's 99, it's going to be 120 in there, 130, and that's too hot for roots. Roots want to have, nice and cool. And this is what I do. When I grow anything against the house, I always put a shade cloth. I leave my plants about 6 to 8 inches away from the house and put a shade cloth. So that way I do not get the heat build up. Because heat will kill your plants. Remember, respiration is very, very important to plants. When you come up, go in the garden in the morning and you see that dew, well, actually that's from the leaf itself. It's it's breathing. That's what it's doing. So that's what we have to encourage. And if it's too hot, they're not going to do that. And of course, they're not going to produce as well.
Is the shade cloth up against the building?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. Yes.
Okay, because it would reflect off.
Yes, it's tied up on the. See, I use a lot of bamboo because bamboo is free.
Yeah.
Because if you have a friend, you could get all the bamboo you want because it's very invasive and it's very strong. You could keep it for 6 or 7 years. So, and it looks nice, I think. It's very attractive.
Do you grow bamboo? Could you?
No, I don't. No. Oh no. Oh no.
That's where the friend comes in.
You're not going to get me to grow bamboo for anyone. No. Please. I have enough.
Go see George Miller.
During the summer, remember what I told you before, that you could grow. See, you have to be the master of your garden. If you know what you're talking about, you are the master of your garden. So people say to me, oh, I can never sprout seeds in the summer. Well, it's because you know how to do it, I tell them. It's that simple. It's that simple. What you do is you put your seeds in the refrigerator for a week or two. Then you soften them up for 24 hours. Then you plant them, and you put a shade cloth on it. Which means that the soil doesn't get hot. You keep it moist, and once it's sprouted, you're home clear. And that's a trick. When you transplant in the summer, if you're going to transplant and you have a variety of anything you have that's in, somewhat not very strong, drip cloth over, or one of these gizmos. That's what I do. And these are very, very easy things to make. Yes.
What are the weather and temperature conditions that you have to be alert to use those shades and screens?
When it gets over 80, see, remember, I don't use mulch very much. Sometimes I use compost as a mulch. And the only thing that I mulch, actually, is my garlic. I put 4-inch mulch when I sow it the first week of November, not any sooner, because if you do it before, it's going to sprout on you too much, and it's going to stick out. And also, I like pine needles because it comes right through. They're free, and they don't decompose. Then in the spring, what you do is you just lift them up with a pitchfork, just lift it up, and just put it on your walkway or throw it away. So all these things, something like this is half. If you need half shading or 1/4 shading, you use this. If you use 50%, use this. And this is a little bit tighter, and this is for really when it gets hot. So that's what I like to do. If you want to plant anything during the year, even spinach. And spinach is very hard to sprout because it needs cool conditions. But under this, sprouts very nicely. Behind any tall plant, you can always grow lettuce. Why not? Or you can have lettuce here before. You plant whatever you want to plant, cucumbers or French melon or tomatoes, and then it will shade it. So you will have, and people say, oh, I can grow radicchio. Radicchio is a member of the chicory family and is the easiest thing to grow. The thing with radicchio is the less attention you give it, the better it likes it. It's the same thing. If you pay too much attention to herbs, you will never have herbs. Herbs, if you kick them, they're going to say, thank you very much. Would you do it again? No, really, that's what they do. They like to be abused. And that's the nice part about herbs. That's one of the things. So on the north side of tall plants, plant something that doesn't need lots and lots of sun. Any leafy character will love the north side of a plant. You take up garlic, put beans right away. And then you put another crop after you get the beans. You see? Then you sow your, let's say, onions. See, sow onions in the fall. So that way you will have onions early in the spring. It's that simple. What is this? What do you think this is?
Banana deficient.
Who said banana?
Banana melon.
Who said? Beautiful. She knows. She knows. There's a problem with this, though. You look at this. This isn't the same vine. By looking at the fruit, I want you to tell me what it needs. A good gardener does not have to rely on anything but just looking at the plant. Is like you, parents, looking at your child. You know exactly what the child needs in the morning. If it has a little fever or something, it's the same thing with the plant. This one here, you can see, it's the beginning of a problem. And the problem is lack of potassium. There's more and more.
Like wrinkly skin, in other words? Or
no.
You mean the nerve now?
Yeah,
the formation.
okay, the deformation. Yeah.
The formation. If it were the opposite way, if the stem was on this side, what would it be? Nitrogen.
If the stem were on that side, what do you mean by that?
If this stem were on this side, and this end was here,
The fullness of it.
yes, the small end, that would need nitrogen. And that's how you look at a plant. You look at a plant and you see if a plant is yellow, what it needs. Nitrogen, sure. And that's what, let the plant tell you what it needs. Don't just go to your nearest supplier and says, what do I need? It says, oh, you need this, how much? Oh, 20 pounds, 30 pounds. You don't need that. Let the plant tell you what it needs. See, because the people you go to, they don't have any idea what you're growing. See, you have to understand your plant. Because when you go somewhere, they just can't tell you because they don't see a plant. Even though they have good intentions, you cannot, I can't tell you, if somebody says to me, well, my plant is like this, I can't tell you because I have to look at it. And not only have to look, not picture-wise, but in person. So that way I know how the plant looks.
Martin, just on that, so you're saying what, when it gets deformed near the stalk or the...
Yes, when this here is very thin.
Okay, it's nitrogen?
No, that's potassium.
Okay.
If the opposite, that's how many times do you have a cucumber and at the end of the season, okay, that's what happens. Because that cucumber needs nitrogen at the end of the season because all the nitrogen is all gone. We understand that now? This should not happen to you. Are you familiar with this stuff? This here is the same thing that attacks, which this is, a squash. Except when you put the tool around the base or kaolin clay. How many of you work with kaolin clay? Good, very good, Britt. Kaolin clay is a clay, it's a white clay, that if you put it around the stem of this plant, the vine borer doesn't lay its eggs on it. And this is also used on orchards, because if you put this on an apple, the worm or the fly doesn't deposit eggs because it doesn't feel right. And this is what it is. Do we have any suggestion what that is? What type of plant is that? Very good. Cabbage, very good. So what attacks cabbage? Yes, it's
Cabbage moth, that's what it is.
very good. Imported cabbage moth. Very good. Excellent. What is this? Yes. That's the work of a Mexican bean beetle. That's what it does to your beans. And since the plant can now photosynthesize, it does not give you a good tasting product. So, and this we know what that is, right?
No.
But this is, see, but they shouldn't look like this. Tomato plants should not look like that. They should look, see, these are neglected tomato plants with the blight.
What do you do about that?
This is what a tomato plant, yes. What is the one on the right? What is that?
What do you mean, what is that?
Take what?
What kind?
Turkey.
Very good. So you must be in next class. It's a Turkish eggplant. They are beautiful. These here are beautiful to put in your flower garden. They're fantastic. I mean, look at them. They look fantastic. And this is what a tomato plant should look like. In September. This is what your garden should look like. See? If you do it right, that's it. Really. It's one of these things that by practicing, you will get the hang of it. And after a while, you know what this plant needs might not be what this plant needs. And once you begin to know that, then you know that you're arrived. I think it's
Yeah, a question about a pepper plant.
Yes.
Supposedly it's supposed to be a yellow pepper. Well, it never turned yellow. It certainly turned nice green, beautiful.
Well, because it's not ripened, that's why.
Well, it's taking too long to ripen.
How long is it taking?
Well, we're now, it still hasn't ripened, here we are in October. And they're nice, big.
Where did you get the seeds from?
I think Lowe's. Okay, where should I be getting seeds? Where? Yeah. Well, so where do you place
Sorry. I'm sorry. Listen, I don't mean Lowe's or Home Depot or Walmart. It doesn't make any difference. I do not accept seeds from anyone. I do not buy seeds. And when I buy seeds, I grow my plant, throw the pack away, and collect from my own crop. Thank you very much. Because first, always remember, if you have a crop that yields a product or produce in your garden, that plant is already accustomed to your soil type. So by you collecting seeds from this plant, it's already immune. So when you plant it again, it does much better.
But when you have to do it the first time, where should I get it?
The only seed companies that I like is Baker Creek. I know.
Baker.
Baker Creek is very good. Johnny Seed, but just watch for Johnny Seed that it says organic or naturally grown at Fedco. F-E-D-C-O. Fedco is from Maine. But when you order seeds, they always ask you, would you like, if we run out of stock, would you take a substitute? Put down, absolutely not. If you run out of stock, I want my money back.
So,
Yes,
so
sure.
you're saying the Johnny Seed you want organic or the Fedco, right?
Yeah, Johnny Seed has a large range of whatever you want.
Okay.
Yes, they have all kinds of things. That's a good company. And High Mowing is also another good company. But there's lots and lots of them. But it's like last year, I only brought 2 seeds that I want to collect seeds from. One is speaking about a yellow pepper, I have large yellow peppers, and this red pepper that I have there is from 3 years ago. But these are my own seeds now, and you can see how nice they look. And they're that big. See, it's that simple. Collect your own seeds. Yes, Britt?
We collected seeds even from organic or heirloom tomatoes from the grocery store.
Uh-huh.
Right, so we take a prime organic heirloom tomatoes, collect the seed and then plant that, and we've been successful with that. But collecting seeds, some things are misrepresented. So if they're hybrids, you really can't collect the seed and know that you're going to get the same plant.
It's like if you go to the...
Have heirloom, right?
Well, sure. It's like if you go to a fair and a guy has a mule and the other guy, and you say, well, I wanted a horse or I wanted a donkey. And I said, well, in order to get a mule, you have to breed one and the other. It's the same thing with seeds. If you have a hybrid, in fact, I judged a contest 2 weeks ago at Greenfield Hill in Fairfield, and this man had, and you have to bring 5 of something. So he had 5 carrots and one was different than the other. And the 4 carrots were really beautiful, but the other one was different shape. So he said to me, how come I didn't win first prize? I won second. I said, well, because you had 4 of the same type. And he said, no, I have 5. I said, you're sure? And he said, oh, yes, I'm positive. He said, because I planted them from the same packet. And I said, well, that could be the problem. You see, because remember, if you harvest your carrots, okay, first of all, if you're going to grow your own carrots, you have to put 3 or 4 of the same variety, the same color, the fall before. Let it winter over, and then you collect the seeds. However, if you have any member of Queen Anne's lace not too far from you, these carrots could be not real good, because it's a cross. We're talking about the donkey and the horse and the mule. They cross. You see what I mean? So what you have to do is you have to cage them. You have to cage them with a tool, T-U-L-L-E, and then rub them together every morning and re-cage them again. See, and that's what I told. Yes, preventing cross-pollination. Because if your Queen Anne's lace is within 600 yards, and 600 yards is a long, long way, it could be cross-pollinated. And that's what I tell you about seeds. Most seeds, you have to watch what you're doing. And this person wanted to know, and I told him, I said, next time you collect your seeds, then that's what you do. These are how banana melons should look like. See, they're nicely shaped. Well, that one there is differently shaped because of the way it's photographed. But these are all, you see, that's how they, but if they are thin on one side or the other, that's a problem. Saffron. How many of you grow saffron? Beautiful. Good boy. That's what I like to hear. Saffron, easy to grow. What is a good risotto paella without saffron? It's like, going to New York and not going to, to a great spot. This is just sprouted, and in 2 weeks I should have flowers. This is what my little garden looks like. I have a cold frame here, I have this one here, I have this one that's going to be here this year, and I have this, and then I have my fig in there. So, and all the other places, they all have winter rye. That's how.
What's that around your fig? I can't really see it. What are you doing with your fig?
I wrap it.
Protecting it from the winter.
Right,
from the winter.
Right, but I can't tell what I'm seeing.
What you're seeing is you build a house around it.
Okay.
2 by 4s.
Outside.
Yes, 2 by 4s.
Okay.
And then you put 1-inch styrofoam all over. And then you have an escape route in case you have condensation. During the day, you have a pipe on top and a pipe on the bottom that circulates. And that's, I get hundreds and thousands of figs.
Wow.
This is the casement window. I mean, what would you do with a junky casement window? It is the best place for a cold frame because it has the heat from the basement and it gets super cold. What you do is you put a light, shine a light through, and you have a perfect from inside. That's it. It's that simple. What you do is you just go down about 6 or 7 inches, put a couple of boards. If you want a flat, you have a flat. If you want a flat, you have a flat. And if you want to slide it down, just 245 you put on each side with a plexiglass. That's all you need. It is that simple. That's one way of doing it. This here does well, nothing freezes. These here, this one here, I took it from the community garden. The problem is that it got too hot during the day, and when I went there one day, everything was dead. So plastic is okay, but if you live in the area, if you live nearby it, to open it up. See, plastic, you have to open it up during the day and do it under at night. This one here is just PVC. You do this at night, you open it during the day. I mean, look at all the nice vegetation I have in there. And that stays until December. Broccoli will stay until January. See, because broccoli, I mean, you have snow, and they're doing okay, they do well. You can't kill broccoli. Then you have the loops. It's very, very simple. The only thing you have to do is put 3/4 inch, anchor it down, and just put 1/2 inch, and just loop them that way. It's very, very simple. And this is the, you want to pass it around? Sure. This is what you put in on top. It's interesting, you know, for you to see, because it really is, it's very light, and it lets the heat out, and it keeps the wind out. So it's very, very, and it's not too expensive.
It's like
Is it
fabric
shade
softener.
cloth? It's not shade cloth.
No, this is not shade cloth.
What is it called?
This is not shade, this is row cover, spun.
Oh.
This is a spun row cover. Yes, yes, they come in different sizes. I like to use the 10 by 50. So I have enough on both sides. See, because, okay, now these loops over here, they're good for now, but later they'll be too high.
Oh.
See, they'll be too high, and your stuff will freeze in there because there's too much air in there. So once, this is good until the 15th of December or so, or a little bit later. And then what you do is, you do this. This is also until maybe January 1st. And what you do is you get a clothespin and just anchor it down. And watch it, because that fabric that you are looking at is very dainty, and it will it's a little flimsy. So, you know, make sure that you don't ruin it. Now, after this, and these here are also high, but this is plastic. This is also good because it lets a lot of air, light in, it keeps it warm. But after December 25, 24, 23, then you go into something else. See? Then you drape it right over. See, if you drape it over, then it does not have enough air to get injured.
But what if it snows?
What's that?
What if it snows?
That's okay. It just melts it down a little bit. Yeah. I mean, these are better if it snows. As you can see over here, and it snowed a couple of days before. It just, you know, takes it down, and sometimes, but the heat inside melts the snow pretty well.
And what are you growing inside?
Lettuce and beets and all kinds of things, whatever you want. See, but start the beets early. See, you can't start beets when the sun is low. See, it has to be high. You know, like the end of August or September, and then by the time they get this big, then they're strong enough. Or onions, you could, scallions and onions, they do quite well. Parsley does well there. Kohlrabi also does well. All these things, you can have lots and lots of things growing. And as you see, this is how this little thing that I made, the snow doesn't stay on it because it's warm. So all these, and this is plexiglass, and it's very cheaply made, but it serves a purpose. And this here, this is the 4 by 8. This is when you start out. I have styrofoam. However, I place this. See, the styrofoam is not touching the soil. The styrofoam is outside of the 4x8. See, now this is the 4x8, and this is the styrofoam that goes on the other side. So I have 2 inches of styrofoam, and it's slanted down. So I prop it up if I want during the day. This is the beginning when I transplant my little seedlings. These are our new seedlings when I first started. Then what you do is, if it rains, take the cover off and put screens there, because you don't want your little seedlings to get battered down by the heavy rain. So you put screens, and it shatters the water drops, and it waters your garden. It's natural. Then you remove this, and you put the top on again. During the snow, it's full of good stuff. What you do is you take the snow off because you want the sun to hit it, and this is what it looks over here. This is during the winter. That's what you get.
Why is that light bulb there?
Very good question. When it dips into single digits, then I put its 100 watt clear bulb. And they're very hard to find because they're a little bit warmer. But that's what I use, and that's what I like to. And this, it's all winter long.
How long did you keep it on?
What's that?
How long did you keep the light on when it's a single digit?
Just during the nights.
Just
at night, yes. Then during the day, you have to open it up a little bit. This is what winter happiness is. Last year, and my wife is here to make sure that I'm telling you the truth. We had our last tomato the night before Valentine's Day.
Wow.
What you do is when you take your tomato plants, do not take it individually.
No.
Individually.
Wow.
Cut it at the bottom, take all the leaves off, and if you want, spray a little copper. It prevents from rotting. You hang it there, and when it's ripened, then you take it off, and you rinse off the copper, and you have a perfect.
So those are inside your garage or something?
This is inside the shed. And eventually they will go in the basement, in my basement. It doesn't have to have a light. So this is garlic. We eat a lot of garlic. And that's the end. This is me. A friend of ours always called me the organic man. And I said, when I have a blog, I'm going to call myself the organic Italian. And that's what I did. So if we have any questions.
I have a question about the PVC that you
Yes.
made the big archway, and then you said as it got colder, you have to lower it. You lowered your
Just take it off and just drape it over. Just drape what you put over. If you don't want to do that. If not, you cut them off a little bit so they're lower. See, remember, the smaller they are, the less, yeah.
Well, so you could have 2 different sets. You
Oh, you
could
can
have
have
your
3
big
sets.
arch,
Oh,
and then
sure,
you
yes.
change when you change over. That's what I'm saying.
You could cut them.
You just lower your drape in between. It looked like you still had the big archways, but then you just lower it.
No, that was because of the snow.
Oh.
Yes.
But regardless of how high it is, when the rains come, unless you've really clipped that down pretty securely, the water's going to get on top of that tarp.
See, what you do is you clip them with clothespins, and that will stay. You know, the only thing is when you put them on and take them off, make sure it rips it a little bit. Do we have any questions? Yes.
What are your suggestions for gardens that get limited amount of sun?
Remember, any warm weather crop likes at least 6, but 6 hours, yes. But when do these 6 hours happen? What do you think?
You know, you don't really want it during the main heat of the day, right?
That's what you want.
It is?
10 to 4.
10 to 4, very good.
All right, okay.
10 to 4, if you only have 6 hours a day, it's beautiful. But you have to have from 10 to 4.
Okay.
Because if you have from let's say 7 to 10 and 4 to 6 or 8, it's not going to do it for you. Unless you grow, let's say escarole, endive, or lettuce.
Lettuce is great.
Oh, sure. It loves it, yes.
Tomatoes do horrible.
Sure, because solanaceous family means sole means sunny, and they want lots of sun.
Okay.
Why don't you put them in pots? Put them in pots, and then you put them in a sunny spot. You have to water them every day.
I want them in my front yard. Okay.
I'm sorry.
Time to move.
Yes.
This requires maintenance, so if you want to go on vacation, or you want to take a week off or something.
Well, then you have your wife or your husband or your friend water it. Yes.
Well, I just wanted to say that I have the same problem as this gentleman here, and I actually grew tomatoes on my deck, and I used pots that have a water reservoir.
Uh-huh.
And
how did you do?
they worked pretty well, actually.
Well,
yeah.
so you
Because
see-
that's the sunniest spot I have in my
Sure.
yard. It's
Well,
the
that's
deck.
no problem.
Yeah.
I mean, gardening, you can do all types of gardening with what you have. And you have to make, I mean, look at people that live in cities. They just have a little spot here, and they just have a little garden on this side or a little pot on this side, and they make it do. I mean, that's what gardening is all about. You have to tailor the garden to your lifestyle. Yes?
On these screens, again, when we're talking about the hot houses or casement windows, things like that, so you had this material, the cloth or whatever you call
Yes,
that type of material. What was it? You said you sort of used that up until whenever it was, I'll say through September, and then you start switching over to plastic? What?
No. See, first, what I like to do is, it all depends how long you want to keep it. Plastic is a little bit more durable. The only thing is with plastic is that you have to water it. With the spun cover, the water seeps through.
Okay.
See, however, heavy plastic, especially the one that is double, the heat stays in a little bit better.
Right.
And if it's lower, it's even better. However, if it's touching, see, that's why you have to get plastic out of your way, because if it touches, when it's super cold, it will freeze whatever it touches. See, because it's, yeah. Any questions? Any? Yes, Britt.
The kale and clay, which we bought, and we had great success with keeping flea beetles and things off.
Yes.
But you had it used, was your slide, was that for beans too, and for the imported?
I use kale and clay to put on the stems of the squash.
The squash, okay.
Because you have the squash vine borer.
Right.
You know, the one that kills your plant. And if you put that on the stem, it doesn't lay the eggs there.
Okay, so use it for squash. I've used it on the grapes and all of the, anything that gets a flea beetle, like the broccoli, the eggplant. That was very good for that.
Oh, sure. On fruit, it's good on apples and pears and stuff like that if you want to use it. The only thing I don't like about the kaolin clay, it's the color. And it also doesn't photosynthesize. The plant doesn't photosynthesize as much because it's blocked. It reflects the sun.
Everything milky white.
Yes, yeah, that's the only. I used it 1 year on my fruit trees, and I didn't like the way it looked. So I don't use that anymore. Now, what I'm going to use next year is I'm going to use a tool. I'm going to wrap each and every apple. I'm going to take most of my apples off the plants and say leave about 20, 30, 40 apples and just wrap tulle around it. This is the first year that I tried it and it's worked beautifully. I still have a Gala apple that's like this on a small tree, and it's beautiful and it has no marks at all. So that's what I'm going to do next year. Instead of spraying for anything, just put the little tool, tied it on top, and that's it. See, because I do a lot of espaliering fruit trees. That's that's nice. Yes.
The tool. When you say tool, are you talking tooling like the netting that?
Bridle. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Great.
And Walmart has all you want for I think it's cheap. Yes.
Can you buy the kaolin clay locally?
No, that's the problem with kaolin clay, and it only comes in 30 pounds, I think. So it's a pain in the neck. You know, it's the same thing that I have with fertilizers. The fertilizers, the organic fertilizers, you have to buy them in 40, 50 pounds.
I got the kaolin clay at Hollandia.
Oh, they have it? Oh, good.
They did, and they had the Bonide copper mix, organic.
Yes.
And you have to know what you're asking for because they buy it, they have no idea.
I agree.
Stock, but they have it.
Yes. See, remember, all copper is organic. The only thing is you have to watch if your soil has too much, then it becomes toxic.
And you have to use a lot to get to that.
Oh, sure. Oh, sure. Because mine, I've been using copper for a long time, and I still, and my copper content in my soil is very little. So I keep on using it. But it has worked so far. It's like grapes. If you don't put a Bordeaux mixture on grapes, you will not have any grapes. And also, if any one of you has fruit trees, make sure instead of using, don't listen to me, but I'm telling you my experience. Instead of using oil, I like to use lime sulfur. I use lime sulfur because it's much, much stronger. And if they tell you to put 2 spoons at a gallon, put 3, because since it doesn't have any foliage, the only thing it does is it zaps anything that is going to hatch in the spring.
So you apply this in the winter? You use that spray?
3 times during the winter, yes. Yes. And because grapes especially, and one time I had some Iranian mites, it's called, and they get almost like a mildew underneath, but it's not a downy mildew. And that you really have to spray. So now what I do is I spray it hard, and 3 times during the winter.
And what
yes.
Again, lime sulfur? Lime sulfur.
Lime sulfur, yes. It's very difficult to get, almost impossible to get. The only place that I was able to get it was Designed by Lee in Stanford. See, because remember, these people here, they talk about organic. They have no idea. They really don't have any. I went to one of the best places, and I said, last year, I said, do you have azomite? And he said, what is that? I said, come on. I mean, if people grow garlic, you have to use azomite. And that's what I try to tell people.
So what is azomite?
Okay, azomite is a white, pinkish powder. It's mined in Utah. It has 67 micronutrients or trace elements. It has no NPK value, but it's a soil amendment. Do we know the difference between a fertilizer and a soil amendment? A fertilizer makes your plants grow. A soil amendment makes your, that's right, it makes your soil rich. See, common manure is not a fertilizer, because common manure is 1-1-1. 1-1-1 cannot, it's good for perennial flowers, because perennial flowers already have the root system. See, what you're dealing with, you know, people that have, I grow also flowers and veggies together. But what I have to do is I have to amend the soil where I'm going to grow the vegetables, because where I have the flowers, the soil is not good enough for the vegetables. See, because, I mean, a flower, it's in the spring, the only thing the flower needs is for the sun to say, okay, switch on the light, and boom, because the root system is there. So the other way, you have to nurture this little plant, and you only have 6 months. So this plant has to grow, bear fruit, and die. And you are responsible. But for the perennial flower, you're not responsible. They do okay without you. They do, yes.
How about strawberries?
Strawberries, to be honest with you, I had them 40 years ago, and they're not worth the space that they're on. They're not productive for me. Yes?
For mulch, is there anything that we should or shouldn't use for mulch around the plants?
Well, what do you like to use?
Well, I've been using chopped straw, the chopped hay.
Okay. Are you happy with it?
No. Well, it's not. My garden's been terrible, so.
Okay. Remember, hay and straw, it has no value. The only value it has is that it shades the sun from the earth, and it makes it it prevents the water from evaporating. However, what it does is it shelters lots of insects. See, and that is the problem with any type of mulch. Why do you want to mulch?
And keep the weeds and everything down.
That's the wrong thing to do. I'll tell you why. I don't mulch very little. I don't have any weeds. Whoever's been in my garden, they don't see weeds. Why? 1 year of seeds, 7 years of weeds. You have to get the weeds out of there eventually, a little bit every year. And remember, the weeds will last 10, 15, 20 years. So if you have a garden, when you have a little weed, just pull it up. It's the easiest time to do when they're little. Or just get a cultivator, just scratch a little bit, and you don't even have to pick it up. Just leave it there. Since the earth is scratched, it dries, and it's going to die. It's that simple. Because if you are going to have, and that's what happens in most community gardens. Most community gardens, I might have a nice plot, you might have a nice plot, you might have a nice plot, but in between us, there's somebody that has lots and lots of weeds. And when they pop, or the wind, they go all over. How many of you know what Artemisia is? Artemisia is a very invasive plant. And outside of the Westport community garden, they had, from here to there, they had a row of this Artemisia. So I said to the town people, because I know one of the people that works there, I said, why didn't you cut that down? I said, and he said, why? It is not bothering you. Yes, it is bothering me. I said, because some of the seeds are coming to my... He said, oh, it's impossible. I said, come on. You look at my plot, and you can see all the little seeds, and you have to pluck them up. So now, this year, they mow it down. And it's good. At least they don't go to seeds. I mean, they They're there, but they're away from me, and that's all I care. So, and that's the problem with weeds. Just, you have to get rid of them. See, because weeds not only take nutrients from the plant, it also shelters lots and lots of pathogens and insects. Yes?
I just saw one more place you can
Okay.
buy this stuff.
Okay.
Country Green
What
in
is that?
Monroe on Pepper Street. They're a commercial supplier of organic products like corn gluten and things like that. But they have a lot of other stuff too. But you know, it's not really retail. I mean, they'll sell to you retail as long as you don't need a pesticide license for whatever you're buying. But they have a large organic supply. But you know, you have to go in there and be patient. They're used to selling 500 pounds or something, and you want the 20-pound bag, you know. But it's Country Green, Monroe, and it's on Pepper Street, so it's really close to me.
Pepper Street. That reminds me, sounds familiar. Because a lot of people want to get into this, but they haven't, they just don't understand the concept yet of what organic is. Yes?
I've got this one garden and it's really, really wet, the soil is, so I'm just wondering what do you put in it to not have it so wet?
Well, do you have raised beds or conventional?
Conventional.
Why don't you put raised beds?
Okay.
If you put raised beds, that means that you could till it very early in the season, and you can have all the type of stuff that you need.
Thank you.
So, well, it was nice being here, and thank you for coming. And we want at least 3 crops a year.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sign the paper back there.
Well, yeah, that's very good.
Oh, so you got one going over there?